Hello, everyone. Thank you for joining us today as we discuss financial strategies and tax considerations for Americans in Spain. There'll be a Q&A at the end of the presentation, so feel free to ask any questions in the Q&A window, which you can access at the foot of your screen, as and when you think of them, and we'll do our best to answer them all for you after the presentations, time permitting. Before we dive in, a brief disclaimer. Please note that the webinar is for informational purposes only and is not intended to offer advice or guidance on legal, tax, or investment matters. Such advice can only be given with a full understanding of each person's specific situation. So let's meet our panel. First up will be Elias Plaza Espinosa and Laura Yamaguchi. And they are international client specialists and international clients manager at CaixaBank in Spain. Elias and Laura have both been at CaixaBank since 2021, helping international clients with their banking and mortgage finance needs. Michelle McKeon is an enrolled agent at Greenback Tax Services. And she previously worked at a Big Four accounting firm. After starting a career in corporate finance, she pursued a master's in accounting to focus on individual taxation. She found her niche in expat tax and now serves Americans abroad. Originally from New York, Michelle has lived in Argentina, Switzerland, and now Portugal. Outside of work, she enjoys rock climbing, trail running, and riding her motorbike. Shane Clark is president and co-founder of Euro American Financial Advisors. He specializes in financial advice and investment management for Americans moving to and living in Europe. With over 10 years of experience in international financial markets, Shane designs balanced and diversified global portfolios for long-term returns. Shane has been an expat himself for 15 years and holds an MPhil in economics from the University of Strathclyde. June 1 is a business product lead in North America at Wise. This involves working directly with customers to better understand their needs, building new product innovations. And prior to working at Wise, June built up a decade of experience in product management at various industries at companies including Warner Bros. And Games and Hopper. So without further ado, over to Elias and Laura to get us started.
Hello everyone, and thank you for joining us today. I'm going to share the presentation. Okay, can you see it? Yes, so let's go. What is Olabank? Olabank is CaixaBank's program designed and created for international clients who spend long periods of time or who wish to settle in Spain. CaixaBank is the leading bank in Spain, okay? So our customer profiles are people who is looking for second home for holidays, second home for retirement, or expatriates for work reasons, or real estate investors. Our value proposal is based in financial specialized advisory service with more than 500 expert advisors for international clients distributed across nearly 400 branches, 381, which are located in tourist hotspots, as you can see here, all the Mediterranean coast, also Balearic Island, Canarian Island, recently north of Spain, and of course, all major cities like Barcelona or Madrid. We also have a digital branch, Olabank digital branch, without needing physical branch and receiving same assistance remotely from same type of specialized advisors. We also have a broad tailor-made product catalog and online banking 24/7 in more than 20 languages, and a specialized helpline in languages like English, French, or German. Financial and non-financial solutions. About financial solutions, financial advantages with Olabank account. You have Visa credit card included for holder and beneficiary. You have online banking service and online correspondence. Cash withdrawals from over 12,000 CaixaBank ATMs all around the country. paying checks in euros drawn from banks in Spain, order 24 transfers in euros to accounts within the European Union. In addition, it includes special conditions for issuing bankers checks, ordering transfers in euros to the European Union over and above the 24 free transfers, and receiving transfers in foreign currency. We have mortgage financial advice, which I will speak further later, but online mortgage onboarding, we accept the necessary documents in other languages for the consideration of your mortgage. We have also insurance solutions with MyBox Seguros, the flat monthly rate for 3 years with exclusive coverage. Health, home, and life insurance with the guarantee and security of Segur Caixa, Adeslas, and Vida Caixa. And finally, security systems offered by Securitas Direct, which protects your home 24/7 all year long. As you can check, all related to home ecosystem. Non-financial solutions. When you become Olabank client, at the same time you become a member of Olabank Club. When you are a member of Olabank Club, you have all these services included related to management, to home, to well-being. Management, for example, you have translations and online interpreter. If you go to the doctor in Spain, you go to the doctor or to the administration, and there is no English speaker, you can use this online interpreter, for example. We also help you with the application process for the NI or TA number, which is an ID number that you need in Spain when you, for example, when you buy a property. Services included in home, handyman service, something so cumbersome like connection of utilities, so you can use this service. And in well-being, medical advice by telephone, telepharmacy service, and veterinarian online. Spanish housing market and financing. Although you are present in all the areas that I mentioned earlier, as of today, you are the widest spread nationality in the north of Spain, as you can see here, which is something that didn't happen before. 5 years ago, as you can check here, that didn't happen, okay? If we check this graphic, we can see that the USA is one of the main non-resident foreign buyers in the Spanish housing market at the moment. How can I apply for a mortgage? You have these mortgage application options. You can do it through any Olabank branch with multilingual managers who accompany you through the whole process. Foreign nationals can often encounter obstacles when applying for a mortgage in a foreign country due to language barriers, between others. Olabank understands these difficulties and has adapted the process to offer multilingual managers who will be by your side offering advice and guidance every step of the way. Also, we have Mortgage Now app. One of Olabank's main advantages is that it offers a simplified and streamlined application and approval process. You can upload your documents online without having to go to the branch, and all your documents in your own language. Both of them for both options without needing to be a client, and no translation of documentation is required. About standard risk policies for international clients, maximum DSTI 35%, maximum loan to value 70%, maximum term 20 years, and the age of the oldest applicant is 80 years, okay? This is for secondary residents, and minimum net income per year is 48,000 euros. We accept all these currencies, as you can see here, of course, one of them US dollar. About convertibility, LCCI is a Spanish mortgage law, that says that at the time of mortgage origination, the client has income in a currency other than the euro. The deed will include a convertibility clause granting the client the right to convert the loan into the corresponding currency. This is something really interesting that you have to know. The mortgage currency will be in euro, and you can use fixed rates or variable rates, any of them offered for residents as well as for non-residents. Documentation in client's own language is accepted. English, of course, English. And we have agreement in principle for applications over 400,000 euros. We have fast tracks for client convenience. We have a list of personalized documents for each country, okay? For example, here we have the one of your country, the one for the United States of America. And as you can see here, when we speak about last annual tax return, we say Form 2040. We say Form W2. We know what is a partnership and what is a K1. We know what is an S corporation and 1120S form, okay? And for solvency documents, we know that credit report in the USA, you can get it from Equifax or Experian. So we know all the specific documents that you use in your country in order to apply for a mortgage. About Mortgage Now app, it's a private space where clients and no clients can upload the necessary documents to analyze the feasibility of granting a mortgage. These countries are included. The USA is one of them. It's available from desktop and mobile. You have access to your applications from anywhere, 100% secure, online document collection. The platform is in English. And we have a list of personalized documents according to country and occupation and in the client's language, as we saw before. And no translation is required in 10 languages. And solvency analysis, you have solvency analysis in 72 hours. And that's all. Thank you. I don't know if Laura.
Many thanks, Elias.
Okay.
Laura, are you going to present as well?
You want to add something or?
Okay, thank you very much for this meeting. Thank you very much for Elias to introduce Hola Bank. He's the best ambassador for the brand. You know that we are one of the first banks in Spain, and I don't know if someone wants to make a question or because we used to work with some mortgage brokers. So I think that we met Hugo and Shane because of this matter. And then I don't know if in the meeting there is somebody that is interested in contacting us because we are a good bridge to connect those people that are interested on buying a home in Spain. Of course, being with your assistants, no, as lawyers you are in Spain. But we are very interested to help anyone that wants to and looking for buying a home in these areas that Elias told that is mainly those vacational or places to come to work like Barcelona or Madrid. Even the north of Spain, that is a new area, very, very nice because of the weather. And well, you have our contact here and with Hugo and Shane. You can connect us in any moment and we can help you, any member of that coming from US or Canada or other country. Nice to meet you and thank you very much for this meeting.
Thank you, Elias. Laura, thank you very much. Michelle, over to you. I think you're muted still.
Michelle, you're muted.
Now you can hear me. Perfect. Sorry, thought I did that. Hi, everybody. Welcome. Here is a screen showing what we're going to talk through today. I already told myself exactly what we're going to talk through. So I would say let's just get started. So why investment decisions change when you move to Europe? US citizens and green card holders living abroad still need to file US returns each year, even if they don't step foot in the US and they have no income coming from the US. Of course, you also need to file a return in Spain or wherever you're living due to your residence. So you're now reporting your worldwide income to two countries, and your investment decisions need to work for both countries' tax laws. So here are some new factors that will influence your investment decisions. The first is Forex concerns. So everything on your US return is reported in US dollars. Because of foreign conversion rates, you could end up in a situation where you sell an investment asset and have a loss in euros or in Spain, and you have a gain in US dollars. So if you bought stocks, non-US stocks, many years ago, there's been a lot of currency fluctuations. You recently sold for a loss in euros, but due to the currency exchange rates, you could actually have a gain when everything is converted into US dollars. So you end up owing US capital gains tax on your profit that doesn't exist in your residence country. Asset reporting, some assets and investments require additional US reporting beyond the tax return. FBAR, FATCA, which is Forms 8938, and PFIX, and we'll talk about all of those in just a second. Foreign products like some pensions or investment funds may be tax advantageous in your local country, but tax disadvantageous in the US. So make sure your financial or investment advisor knows that you're a US person. And if they look at you blankly or say it doesn't matter when you tell them that, run. As my father always said, run, do not walk away, find a new investment advisor. Finally, you will need to consider tax treaties and foreign tax credits. Make sure that your US tax preparer and your local tax preparer know and agree on the treaty treatment of your asset. Even though you're reporting income to two countries, the US has measures in place to make sure you're not paying double tax. So any local taxes that you're paying to your country of residence should be picked up as a credit on your US return. Next, we will talk about some compliance. So these are some additional forms you may need to file when you're investing abroad. The first two, FATCA and FBAR, these are reporting the highest values of your non-US accounts and assets. They're both information returns, which means no taxes due. So you don't have any US income tax due just for having cash sitting in a Spanish bank account, for example. There's no wealth tax in the US. Both forms, the FATCA and the FBAR, report all your non-US assets once you reach a certain threshold. The threshold is different for both forms. So let's start with Form 8938. So this is as complicated as possible. The threshold varies depending on your filing status, if you lived abroad for the entire year or only part of the year. And there's two threshold calculations, one that looks at the entire year and one that looks only at the final day of the tax year. Really complicated. So generally, for purposes of this conversation, keep in mind, you should start worrying about FATCA once you have about $200,000 in assets and accounts outside of the US if you're filing as single, and $400,000 across all your accounts and assets if you're married. This is filing status, not marital status. So if you are married but you file separately for US purposes, the single threshold will apply for you. FBAR, same idea. We're reporting non-US financial accounts and assets, but this is the FBAR is not part of your tax return. It is a completely separate filing you will have to file in addition to your tax return. There's also a lower threshold than the 8938, which is 10K. Straightforward, cumulative highest value in all your non-US accounts at any time during the year. The FBAR can be filed jointly if only one spouse has solo accounts. If both spouses have solo accounts, then each spouse has to file an FBAR, and each FBAR will report all their solo accounts and all of their joint accounts if there's any. The FATCA and FBAR are not exclusive, so you may need to file both in 1 year or only one and not the other. Sometimes when I tell clients about FATCA and FBAR, people tell me the bank does this for me. They don't. No, they don't do that. Sometimes banks send account information to the US when they're asked to, but they do not file tax forms for you. You're on your own with this. PFIX, Form 8621. So certain investments like non-US mutual funds are punitively taxed by the US. So let's say you invest in a non-US mutual fund, you purchase it, but you don't sell anything and you don't take any distributions. The US is going to look at the year-over-year unrealized gain in that fund and tax it at the highest possible US tax rate. So not your ordinary tax rate, but the highest possible tax rate allowed by law. So you end up paying US tax out of pocket, even though you haven't actually made any real income yet from that fund. The reporting on Form 8621 is also super detailed and annoying, I think intentionally so, as another disincentive. So stay away from foreign funds. If you're staying away from foreign funds, what should your strategy be? Top strategy, most straightforward, just invest in the US, get US stocks, work with US investors, US funds. Another option, if you don't want to do that, is to buy stocks directly. So rather than working with EU funds or bundles or things like that, just directly buy and hold stocks. A third option is to, if you're married to a non-US person, so someone who's not a citizen, green card holder, or US resident, you can have your spouse make certain investments in the EU, and then they won't be going on your US return. Just keep in mind that if you guys ever decide to move to the US, those will be reportable. So be careful with that. So retirement and real estate, foreign pensions. With foreign pensions, the default position is that your contributions and earnings in the pension are taxable income in the US, even if you're not receiving distributions. Sometimes there are treaty positions which allow you to defer the US tax on that income until you're actually receiving distributions or until the foreign country starts taxing the amounts. Sometimes pension withdrawals are tax-free or partially tax-free, or they have beneficial tax rates in your local country. That's probably not going to be the case in the US. There probably won't be the same treatment, and by probably, I mean almost definitely, the US wants to tax as much income as it can at the highest rate it possibly can. So don't make an assumption that just because something is beneficial for you in the local country, it's going to be the same treatment in the US. Rental income and capital gains. So because of currency conversions and different laws between countries, it's absolutely possible to have a situation where you have a rental property in Europe, you're renting it out, but your expenses are so high, you have a loss in the EU. After everything is converted to US dollars, after different laws are considered, maybe you have a gain in the US, so you have taxable income in one country and taxable loss in the other. I have some clients that try to even out their losses and gains so that they end up with net zero taxable income. So if this is your strategy, just bear in mind that that strategy that will even you out in Spain might not even you out in the US. Keep excellent records. Don't make assumptions. This is the main point of the presentation, I think. Just because something is beneficial for you in Europe means it's probably not beneficial for you in the US. Let's see. So we have the housing exclusion, the Section 121 exclusion. So this is an exclusion that applies if you own a main residence and you sell it for a profit. The exclusion allows you to exclude a certain amount of that taxable gain from your income. So taxable gain is the gross proceeds from the sale minus any expenses of the sale, so legal fees, broker's fees, things like that, minus your original cost to purchase the property. This exclusion also works if your main residence is outside of the US, so it's absolutely fine to use the exclusion if you're living in Spain, anywhere else. All of those figures will be converted to US dollars, so they may be less beneficial for you in the US or more beneficial than they are to you in Spain. But all of this is to say, keep track of all of your costs. The exclusion is $250,000 if you file a single and $500,000 if you file jointly and you're both owners of the property. Finally, we have the foreign housing exclusion. So the foreign housing exclusion, you can elect to exclude foreign housing costs if you are already electing the foreign earned income exclusion, which you have to qualify for. The housing exclusion is not as beneficial as the income exclusion. The income exclusion is about $130,000 of earned income per person per year. Both spouses can elect this exclusion to exclude their own earned income. The housing exclusion is not as great. It ends up being a maximum of about $30,000 a year. There's a floor and a ceiling, so your costs have to be above a certain floor to be considered. And then they're capped at a certain amount. It's best for renters because your rent is quite high. Homeowners get limited deductions and they don't usually pass housing expenses. So usually just one spouse ends up getting the housing exclusion. In that case, you usually end up with a maximum income exclusion and housing exclusion about $160,000 per year. Thank you for listening. Sorry, I tried to talk really fast. I hope you understood anything that I said. Sorry for being muted. That was really complicated in a very short time. If you have any questions, write them in the Q&A. We'll have them at the end of the call here. You can also contact Greenback on any one of these channels, and we'll help you out with any questions you have. Thank you.
Thanks very much, Michelle. Shane, over to you.
There we go. Well, as Hugo said earlier, my name is Shane Clark. I'm the president of Euro-American Financial Advisors. We're a boutique cross-border investment advisory firm. So we're headquartered in Sevilla in Spain. Very lovely weather these days. And we also have a sister firm with an office just outside San Francisco. It's called International Asset Management. That company's been around 22 years. It's a fiduciary and we're independent. So without further ado, let's get started. So the big question, what's the one thing I should know about my investments as a US expat? Well, there's probably more than one thing, but a big question that clients always ask us is, if you've moved abroad or you've been living abroad for years, you might be familiar with the fact that many brokers in the US don't work with you as an expat unless you use a US address. There are two that do. One is Charles Schwab and the other is Interactive Brokers. So they're fully compliant. They'll work with you living in Spain, using your address in Spain, and you can, if you're moving, maintain your accounts. If you're already here, you can open up a new account with Schwab International, as well as Interactive Brokers has a US branch and a branch in Ireland. So that's one nice tidbit. And then why is this so complicated? So really, it starts with citizenship-based taxation. And that's unique to the US. Unlike most countries where they have residency-based taxation, citizenship-based taxation means that no matter where you live in the world, you still have to file a tax return in the US every year. Most likely you'll be paying your taxes in Spain, but as Michelle just said, filing as well in the US. The next one is the Foreign Account Tax Compliance Act. And this is a piece of legislation that you might find when you're filling out applications for Spanish banks. You have an additional form as a US citizen, which implies all the FATCA implications, where they report your account abroad back to the US. FBAR, I think Michelle covered that pretty well. PFIX as well. Any foreign mutual fund, exchange traded fund, Sometimes a money market fund can be considered a PFIC. This is something you absolutely want to avoid purchasing. And if you do purchase and you need to get out of it, speak with Michelle. She can help you with those reporting forms. MiFID is the Market in Financial Instruments Directive. And really, this is, if you're in the US, you'd want to work with somebody who's licensed in the US. You wouldn't want to work with somebody from a country that you weren't familiar with. You'd want to work with somebody who's registered with the Securities and Exchange Commission and knows what they're doing. Same thing over here. So MiFID is kind of our firm's overarching piece of legislation, which dictates what we can and can't do and protects you as a consumer. The next piece is PRIPS. This one's always a mouthful for me. It's packaged retail investment and insurance-based products. And if you've done some research online or you've had a hard time buying US exchange traded funds in the past, this is probably the reason why. So this is a piece of EU legislation that states any US ETF that's being offered in the EU needs to produce this key information document. Now, the US ETFs can't produce this document because the Securities and Exchange Commission says they can't forecast performance. It's not okay. So they don't produce that, and then they can't offer you these ETFs. Luckily, there's a bit of a workaround. So Charles Schwab takes the stance that for institutional clients versus retail clients, and the difference there is if you open an account yourself, you're a retail client. If you open an account and work with a US-based registered investment advisor, you're considered an institutional client. So Schwab takes the stance that they're offering these ETFs to an institution in the US, so they'll let the US firm buy them on your behalf, which is a nice way to get diversification. And then, simply put, what our services are, we offer cross-border investment advice. So the two services are investment advice, structuring your investment portfolio, optimizing taxes, trying to get the best performance we can for your level of risk. We coordinate our services across your financial team, meaning local taxes in Spain. If you have an estate planning attorney, if you have a tax advisor for the US, we can work with all the parties to make sure that we're getting everything done with no negative surprises. And we've also been doing this for years. This is our whole business. So all of our clients are US expats. We're expats ourselves. And this is really what we're focused on. The other big service we offer is financial planning. And I'll talk a little bit more about that. But in general, the idea is we produce 3 personalized financial statements for you, looking at this is where you're at today. This is where you want to be. What goals do you have along the path? How do we get there? So I think really, when you move across borders or live in multiple countries, if you have assets in multiple countries, it is important to work with experienced, knowledgeable team members who are licensed, as we are over here. My partner and I both have financial planning designations in both jurisdictions. And I think that we're well positioned to answer any negative surprises you might have come across. Something else we look at, depending on where you're at in the expat journey, if you're preparing to move, you just moved, or you've been here, many years, there's lots of things that kind of crop up along the line that we should look at. So for example, if you've been here a long time, maybe you're looking at starting to draw Social Security and you need some advice on, okay, I worked 10 years in the US, I've worked 15 years here, do I have access to both systems? Which system should I be trying to draw from? Estate planning, we don't do estate planning in-house, but we do work with attorneys who can help you on that, making sure you have a will that's been notarized here in Spain. A lot of these issues that you might just not be aware of, but it's important from a financial planning standpoint to kind of, go through the checklist and make sure there's no bad surprises. And then, like I said, the financial planning, we look at many different scenarios. So a common one is, should I buy? Should I rent? If you're looking at real estate, we need to consider that like any other investment. Are there hidden costs living here, versus the US? how does local pensions integrate into your overall plan? There's lots of scenarios, lots of different, we run Monte Carlo simulations, so we can run many, many, many different variations in market conditions to see, where your accounts could be in the future. So there's lots of options there. If you're looking at custody of assets, this is that first point I brought up with brokers who will continue to work with you as US expats. Your options basically are keep your assets in the US or move them over here. If you move them over here, I think you need to look at many, many reasons for that. So what are the costs going to be? What are the tax reporting complications going to be? What assets can you buy? There's lots of reasons not to do that. There are some reasons to do that. For example, if you work with Interactive Brokers and it's a taxable account, it's Interactive Brokers Ireland. If you have an account with Interactive Brokers Ireland, we can trade on any exchange in the world. So we can put together a portfolio of European stocks, European bonds held in euros. So that's a nice way to get exposure to the euro and still have 1099 tax reporting for the US and avoiding PFIX. I think we talked about fees. Generally speaking, using US brokers is less expensive than brokers over here. And then some people recently have been mentioning financial system diversification, meaning that they have concerns about the US, they want to have some money outside of the US financial system, or they want to be compliant, but they still want to have a portfolio of European stocks, European bonds, and that's something that we do with Interactive Brokers. Some other big issues, tax reporting. I think having the 1099s is extremely important for your US returns. So I think having a compliant broker there is good. I think somebody actually asked a question about this. So safety of your accounts, insurance. If you have an account in the US, we have SIPC insurance. That's up to 500,000 per account. Over here, I believe it's only 22,000 euros per account. So it's considerably less. And then in terms of compliance, if you do get audited by the IRS, you want to make sure that you have all the forms you need. Currency risk, that's a huge issue for US expats. If all of your money's in US dollars, all of your expenses are in euros. This year we saw a big decline in the value of the dollar relative to the euro, so it's become kind of a hot topic again. There's many ways to manage currency risk. You can do it directly, where you hold the pool of European stocks and bonds, or indirectly, where you hold a US ETF that then holds European stocks and bonds. So there's a couple options there. I'm conscious of the time, so I'm going to pick up my pace here. Other financial issues, you want to have a globally diversified portfolio. So a lot of times in the US, we have US-centric portfolios. Really living over here, you should have a globally diversified portfolio of stocks, bonds. We do have gold in the portfolio as well. Buying real estate, I think you should look at that as any asset. So it's easy to get emotionally attached to an apartment or a house, whereas really you should be reviewing it as if it was any one of your other positions. Is it a good investment? What are the running costs? What's the yield? What's the upkeep? What's the mortgage? What's the opportunity cost? So we need to look at it like that. In summary, thank you all for attending tonight. I think you should just relax, work with good team members, and enjoy the adventure. So that's it for me. Thank you.
Thanks very much, Shane. And over to June from Wise.
Can you guys see the moving screen? Is this moving? Nope. Okay. Give me 1 second. I think because it's into desktop.
I think, Jean, if you could stop sharing, I think that might be the issue.
Well, I am now sharing the desktop. You guys can see now? Is this good? Okay, cool. Thank you. Sorry about that technical difficulties. All right. Hi, everyone. Thank you for joining us today. I'm the last one to go. I keep it tight. Very excited to be here today. A little bit about myself. My name is June, and I'm a product lead at Wise. I've been at Wise for over 2 years, looking after our North America growth. Today, we'll look at some of the bigger challenge U.S. citizens face when sending, receiving, or converting money while living abroad. I'll give you a brief overview on who and what Wise is if you haven't heard of us. And we'll discuss some of the biggest challenge like hidden fees, opaque payment process, exchange rates, and also the complex tax reporting, and end up with some Q&A at the end if there's time. So what is WISE? Essentially, it's an international account where you can send, hold, spend, and receive in multiple currency, all from one account. So we're not just a money transfer app. If you have heard of us before, we used to call TransferWise. Maybe that rang a bell for some. But now we are a international account where our account creation process is very straightforward. Everything is done online, completely free to sign up. We don't have any subscription or monthly fees. And then I'll just highlight a couple of these features here. For example, you can hold up to 40 different currencies with one account. You can get local account details in over 8 currencies. That means you can get a US routing number and the EU IBAN or UK IBAN all in the same account. And you can receive money locally like a local person and give that IBAN to your payers or providers. We also automatically apply discounts on large transfer over 20,000 GPP within a single month, and that come with dedicated specialist support who will be with you every step of the way. We also have the Wise debit card, and you can spend like a local when you're traveling aboard and going between the 2 countries. So we were founded in 2011, almost 15 years now, with the vision of making international money movement fast, affordable, and convenient. There's a lot of data here, and just highlight a couple of these. Like we serve over 15 million active customers today, and we move over 155 billion across border every year. So this is our bread and butter, money transfer across the border. To enable that, we have built up this infrastructure in the last 15 years with over 100 banking and payment partners and over 70 licenses around the world. And then, as I mentioned, we do offer 24/7 customer support through phone, email, or chat, and you can reach out to us anytime. With Wise, your money is also protected. We are licensed, like as I mentioned, we have over 70 licenses around the world. We're licensed to hold your money. And as a part of it, keeping it safe, we follow very strict rules set up by the local authorities in the countries that we operated in. Your money is also safeguarded, meaning it's held separately with our own money. And it's really held with major banks, names like Barclays, JP Morgan Chase, some of the other factor like 2-factor authorization to protect your account. And the last one is an interesting one. We run over 7 million daily checks to spot and prevent fraud. It's 80 checks per second. By the time I finish this slide, we already ran about 300, probably 500 checks. So going to the main challenge that you face as American living abroad, from our perspective, I think one is the foreign hidden exchange fee. This is when you're relocating, when you're traveling between the 2 countries, you also need to relocate your assets. Converting currencies can be expensive and exchange rate can be quite volatile. 2 is the opaque payment process and speed. Now, international payments are not known for its speed. It's very slow and the process is opaque. You often don't know when it will arrive or how much it will arrive. And the last one, we have a whole session on this from Michelle. I'm not going to be the expert here, but there is tax reporting on, right? You do still have your tax obligation. You need very accurate statements to submit to the IRS. So foreign hidden exchange fees. So let's talk about the challenge of foreign hidden fees. It is very crucial to be mindful of the cost involved when transferring money internationally. Now, traditional providers often claim there are no transfer fees, but it is misleading because the reality is many of these traditional providers or banks will mark up the exchange rate, which means you receive less than anticipated on the other side. Over time, it really can cost you up in the thousands annually. So to help you navigate the challenge of these hidden fees, here's some pro tips. Look for providers that offer transparency in fees and pricing structure. And always compare providers and find the real exchange rate. That is the one you can see on Google, right? The one that you search GPB to USD today. What is the rate right now? We have a tool, we have a price comparison tool. You can see how different providers compare to each other. And we always use the mid-market rate with no hidden fees. We tell you exactly how much we charge you. You can access this table from our website that whenever you're settling a transfer, you can look for different providers and the rate that they're offering. Sometimes we may not be the cheapest, and we will let you know. We'll rank it and we'll tell you we're not the cheapest at this moment. But oftentimes you can see that they claim that there's no transfer fee, 0, but it's really baked into the exchange rate. Now, exchange rate fluctuate constantly, I think as Shane mentioned earlier, and it can really change dramatically due to market conditions and geopolitical events. This volatility also means that the timing of your transaction can significantly affect how much you receive or send when converting currencies, right? And tracking these fluctuations can be quite challenging and time-consuming, adding another layer to like manage your finance effectively. And it's really added more complexity to your financial planning. So some of the top tips on managing challenging exchange rate volatility is regularly monitor and track exchange rate, right? Strategically plan and time your transfer to capitalize on favorable rates to maximizing the amount to receive or send. And to do both of these, we have, and built-in feature at Wise, have rate alert for the routes that you are interested in. For example, Euro to USD or Euro to USD to GPB. You can set the rate alert with sending notification daily. We do auto conversion, which is you can set your desired rate. Hey, if this hit this rate, please convert the money in my Wise account. And we do so. And we provide a rate locking feature to optimize your transfer. That range from 8 to 24 hours, depends on the routes. That means the rate that you see on the website will lock it in for 8 hours up till you completed the transfer. Now, second challenge is the opaque process and speed. I'm not sure if everyone's familiar, but I'll go over this a little bit of why is this so slow and opaque. If this because of a SWIFT system. SWIFT is the legacy network that all the banks use to transfer money internationally. So you can think of it as a flight. If you're flying I'm from Austin. You're flying from Austin, there's no direct flight to Maldives. I need to take at least 2 transfer flights in between to get to Maldives. And this is the same when it's correspondent banking, where you have correspondent bank in between from the sender bank to the recipient bank because these 2 banks don't have direct relationship with each other. There's no direct flight. So they need to take 2, 3 different corresponding bank in between, and each of these banks will have their own rate, will take out their own fee. That's why it's opaque and it's slow. You can hit a holiday somewhere in between and you have no idea where the money is going. So with our infrastructure that we built over the last almost 15 years, we have that really end-to-end control on a lot of these routes because we are not using this like traditional corresponding banking system. Now, remember this slide. It's probably hard to remember, just tons of number on this. I highlight this one. 74% of the end-to-end payment are instant. And we define instant at Wise as end-to-end within 20 seconds. So instant to you means less stress, meaning the moment you send from Spain to the US, it will arrive within 20 seconds. Less stress wondering where money is, how much it will arrive, and that's powered by the proprietary network that I mentioned earlier that we built in the last 15 years. And we were built on transparency. So what does it really unlock for our customer is 3 things. One is you get real-time tracking of your money, you know exactly where it's going. If you actually look into the screenshot, you can tell that the timestamp moved barely because this was a real transfer I did, was arriving within 20 seconds. So that's why the timestamp didn't really move that much. 2 is upfront rate and fee. You know exactly how much you're paying for. And that gave you a guaranteed delivery amount because you know how much you're paying for. So we think all these components are really important and valuable to our customers sending money internationally because it could be a very stressful and high stakes situation. The last one is complex tax reporting. As I mentioned, we have a whole session on this, so I'm not dive too deep into this, but as you know that there you have annual tax obligation to the IRS and they demand precision on the reporting. You must give them exactly what they want. It is essentially to understand these responsibilities, avoid penalties, and ensure your seamless financial management. So with Wise account, you can download and access this report as simple as this following. You can click the statement report from your settings. You select tax statements. And after selected date range, you can pick the country and then they're ready to send to you. And you can use that, send it over to IRS or give it to your tax expert like Michelle. So some of the pro tips on reporting is keep through financial records throughout the year to ensure accuracy in your tax filing. Right, consult with a tax professional to understand all these intricacies to help navigate the compliance requirement. And with Wise, we do have that effortless generating IRS compliance statement to streamline your tax reporting process. So in closing, always compare pricing and to look for transparent fee. Plan your transfer to take advantage of the favorable fees to get alerts to set auto conversion, right? And tax reporting doesn't have to be difficult. And on that, as a benefit to sign up to Wise through this webinar today, you get 1 fee-free transfer up to 1,000 GPB or equivalent. You can send the QR code on screen. And thanks for your time today.